This is Choose the Bear, where we dive deep into the power and joy of living a vibrant, independent life on your own terms. This podcast is your go-to source for smart, fun, and insightful conversations about what it means to embrace independence and live the life you choose. I'm Kat Calvin, and together we'll explore how this movement is challenging outdated stereotypes, redefining success, and empowering people to live their best independent lives. Welcome to Choose the Bear. I am Kat Calvin. Today we're hearing from an incredibly fabulous woman who is living one of those Instagram FOMO lives. She is the lifestyle editor for Essence magazine. How cool is that? I invited Dominique Fluker because she's written some really interesting articles about the single life for Essence, and I think this conversation was really fun and inspirational and exciting, and hopefully it will inspire you to get out there and live a full and exciting life. So here's Dominique. So today, dear listeners or listener, whoever's out there, I'm really excited. So I have a Google alert for, all the things, Choose the Bear and 4B and whatever. And I came across this article and it used a term I had never heard before that we're going to get into. And I was like, what is this? What have the kids done now? And I clicked on the article and it was written by the amazing Dominique Fluker. And then of course I stalked her on Insta and I read all of her other articles. And I was like, this woman is amazing and a really great writer and very brave. And we're going to talk about an article she wrote that I thought was just really fantastic and very brave. And so I was like, I got to have her on. And then I slid into her DMs and she wrote back and now she's here. So yay, Dominique, I'm so excited that you are with us.
Yay. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Kat.
Of course. So before we get started, just can you tell everybody all about who are you? What do you do? Who is Dominique?
Yes. So my name is Dominique Fluker. I am a writer and content strategist. Right now, I am the lifestyle editor at Essence magazine.
Which is I'm so jealous. That's just such a sexy job. For all of you who did not grow up as young Black girls, we spent a lot of time looking through the lifestyle sections of Essence thinking, is this going to be my life one day?
Yes, totally. And, it's such an honor and a privilege to work at Essence because I remember when I was a little girl, like grabbing those magazines from my mother's coffee table and kind of like making a collage or mosaic of some sort of, the lifestyle pages. And so it's just crazy that I am a lifestyle editor contributing to print and digital.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Essence is so legendary and was so important for so many of us. And so the fact that you actually get to work there is incredible. And I mean, we'll jump right in because, you wrote an article that I feel was very brave and very vulnerable, and particularly the fact that it was in Essence, which, we're having all these conversations among all sorts of different groups and on this podcast about women choosing to be single or child-free or both and what that looks like. And for all sorts of different demographics of people, including Black women, those have very different connotations to them and different impact. And so you wrote an article called "I Don't Aspire to Be a Wife," which I just love. Just in the headline, you're just like, this is what it is. Be prepared. This is what you're getting into. I loved it. I thought it was a really credible thing to write. So can you talk a little bit about what the article was, and it'll be linked in the show notes, and also what inspired you to write that in such a large public forum like Essence?
Yeah, definitely. So it was a personal essay, and what inspired me was the actual real life experience I had. I mean, I was minding my business like I always do. As single ladies, we always get approached with some nonsense, foolish things or statements or questions when you're doing regular things. Like for me, I was at a grocery store and I was grocery shopping and I ran into actually another Black woman who I believe was a millennial myself, and she had a baby. And I was like, oh, the baby is so cute, just being friendly. And I'm pushing my cart and she looks at me and she looks, in my cart and asks me, hey, oh, are you shopping for your family, your husband? And I look at her, I paused, okay? I was taken aback. Looked at her, then looked at my cart, then looked at my left hand with no diamond visible on my ring finger, and thought, this would be a good article.
A true journalist immediately thought, I can write about this.
Yes. But I kindly responded to her and I said, no, actually, just for me, just for myself. And I find that scenario kind of happening a lot in different ways. I know I have my standing brunch appointment on Saturdays or after church on Sundays, and I go to my favorite neighborhood brunch spot by myself. I love dining by myself. I love going to
Me
concerts by
too.
myself. I love doing errands by myself. I'm the only child, so I never really felt like I needed to have a tag along or felt awkward doing things that I enjoy by myself. And so my girlfriends know that about me. Partners know that about me. Yes, hi, I'm dating. A single woman dates. Okay.
Newsflash. Stop
Okay,
the
I'm not
presses.
married, but that doesn't mean that I don't have an active social and romantic life. But anyway, yes. So a lot of people have noticed that, and they've said that that's one of the things that they admire about me, that I'm able to just have autonomy with my own life and my own life choices. And I think that's what the article kind of was. It's like a stamp,
Yeah.
it's like, this is what I believe. And while I do believe in marriage and the importance of that, I also don't aspire to just be a wife.
Yeah.
And for those who do, that's totally your prerogative and what you would like to do with your life. But for me, I aspire to be a good person first. I aspire to be a world citizen, a learner, just being active in my community.
Yeah.
And I do love my career, and I love having elements of freedom. And that's not to say that married people don't. However, it's a different experience for me. And I think the article definitely raised some eyebrows with the public and also my own family, because I'm always getting those questions like, who are you dating? In fact, people try to set me up randomly when I don't need that.
Nobody
But
needs that ever.
yeah, but it's all coming from a good place,
Yeah.
because I think they don't want me to feel lonely or just all about my work. That can be further from the case, though.
So that I was going to ask, what was the response that you got to this article?
It was mixed, but the majority really understood where I was coming from. I think a lot of millennial women, especially a lot of millennial Black women, feel the same way. And I think that we are significantly different from other generations where you're prioritizing things ahead of something else. And I think it really doesn't have to do with any type of partnership or relationship, whether it's heterosexual or not. It's more so how it has to do with us and how we perceive what we want for our lives. I think having the power and the ownership is really empowering for those who read the article. And then there were other ones like, you don't want to be married. You are bashing the sanctity of marriage
Oh, Lord.
and togetherness. And it's like, well, no, I mean, in long-term relationships, that's not what it is. And my girlfriends will tell you that Dominique would probably be one of the first people that will be married. It's just not, it's not either or, right? I think I don't live in absolutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that's powerful. I always wonder, like, when I see comments like that or people saying things like that in the grocery store, like, did you perhaps just step out of a time machine? Like, is this your first 5 minutes in 2024? Because who says something like that?
Well, girl, honestly, it was also some comments that I got too around that time of, oh, you give wifey energy.
Oh, no.
I'm like, what does that mean?
I don't know, but I don't want it.
And I get it from some people too, where they don't see the ring on my finger, but they still think I'm married.
Interesting.
And I think it has to do with perceiving me, obviously, but feeling like I'm put together, I'm well-to-do, I'm, established. And I'm like, well, those things are true, but that doesn't mean that I have to be married for
Right.
the, like, what are we talking about here? And I think that was also the purpose of the article, to shake things up, to get people out of their bubble of understanding and what their perceptions of me and how I view relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. So that actually brings me to my next question, which is, and yes, I did Insta stalk you. And yes, you are awesome and living an amazing life. And I'm going to put your Instagram in the show notes so everyone else can be as jealous as I am. But how has being single and child free influenced your career and your life so far?
Well, it's been fabulous, honestly. And that's just such a Dominique thing to say, honestly. I'm talking to you as my girlfriend, right? Like we're
Mhm.
girlfriends in this moment for this episode, and it's fabulous. Like I'm able to curate my own schedule. I love working, but I also am trying to have a strike a balance, if
Mhm.
that's a real thing nowadays, but
Yeah.
try to carve out at least 2 to 3 personal hours
Mhm.
a week, or I would love for that to happen per day, but that's sometimes not always realistic. So I've taken up hobbies like horseback riding, hiking, going to art galleries, and sometimes I'm doing these things alone.
Mhm.
And it feels really good. And then I have my group of girlfriends and community members out in LA and beyond that will accompany me to do those things. But, I think being single and child free has influenced my career because I'm a lifestyle editor. And not saying that you can't have those things and not be that, but I feel like I do have a specific lifestyle
Mhm.
that has solidified my brand before, I was a lifestyle editor. And I think it's the travel, getting up and going whenever I want,
Yeah.
or, within reason. It's not, within reason, but also just experiencing things that I want to do on my own time. I'm not on anyone's schedule.
Yep.
And not saying that it's because I solely have a child or I don't have a child, but it's also like with my family too. I'm not on anyone's schedule.
Yep.
Like I do me.
Yeah. Yeah. It does make things easier.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this term that I first learned from you
Yeah.
and which has blown my mind. Could you talk about what it means to be boy sober? Where did this come from? What is it? What are the kids doing?
Yeah, so I do want to give credit where credit is due. Boy Sober was coined by comedian Hope Woodard, and it was through her comedian performance in Brooklyn. And then it kind of went viral on TikTok and Instagram. But Boy Sober is really a self care initiative that involves taking a break from dating, sex for however long you need to focus in on your goals and also to center yourself. I think that's a lot of how my philosophy is about being single,
Mhm.
centering myself.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all about me right now. And that is okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to center yourself and, have maybe romantic goals for yourself. Maybe you need a healing period. Maybe you need a self care period or a time to fulfill all the goals and dreams that you've wanted to do. It's outside of catering to another person or people or your family. And I think it's totally okay to do that. And it's
Mhm.
not selfish. So Boy Sober really kind of hones in on that, making space for self compassion for yourself, platonic love. I'm in a real big season of girlfriends and friends in
Mhm.
general where I'm showing up for my friends. And I'm also holding people accountable to show up for me because
Good.
I'm being a good friend, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's more so of like taking the onus off of sex and relationships and pouring that type of energy into
Mhm.
yourself.
That's amazing. So, what do you think? We're seeing all of these numbers of people, particularly women, choosing to be single and, potentially remaining unmarried, really rise among millennials, among Gen Z. What do you think is behind that? Why do you think that young people are making those choices?
Yeah, I think it has a combination to do with a lot of different factors, like the pandemic
Mhm.
is number one. I mean, we didn't have access to people in person in real life for quite some time. So now we're kind of seeing the effects of that. Number two is has a lot to do with people just not being on the same page as
Mhm.
you. I mean, dating can be really, really tough.
Yeah.
And then you have social media, and then you have all these type of physical expectations or whatever have you or boxes to check. And I think a lot of people are recovering from the pandemic
Mhm.
and trying to figure out who they are independently from
Mhm.
the pandemic and also the dating pool kind of has pee in it right now. And my girlfriend's funny story, they made me get on Hinge.
Okay. How's
You
that been?
So I tell them all the time because we're talking real, right? I meet guys all the time.
Hmm.
I meet them on the plane. I meet them, out for drinks by myself or dinner by myself. I just meet guys all the time. Meeting
Hmm.
guys is not a problem for me. It's
Hmm.
the emotional connection.
Hmm.
It's us having things in common, thinking ahead for the future. That is where it starts to get a little murky, but
Hmm.
it's just fun. It's fine. I don't take it seriously at all. I've been on it for maybe about a month and a half or so, and I've
Hmm.
got likes, but I don't take it seriously at
Yeah.
all. I think that's one thing that makes me optimistic about dating and about being single is that
Hmm.
I don't put that much stock into it.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if I want to be a bit more serious about it, I will
Yeah.
in due time.
Yeah. And I think that's a really smart attitude to have because we have all known women who, and whether it's because of what they want from their lives or pressure they're feeling externally or whatever, but they are dating with a real goal and a deadline. And I always just feel like you're just putting so much pressure on yourself that you're not having fun. And I think it might even make it more difficult to meet someone when you've got that, that deadline
Yeah.
behind you.
I literally am just
You're
doing a
just out
shrug,
here.
like, at this point, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also including marriage and children,
Hmm.
because I can't live my life holding my breath. I
Yeah.
refuse to do it.
That's a good quote. So I'm so interested because when we look at social media, I feel like it veers into very different directions. We've either got the like soft life trad wife thing happening on one end, or the choose the bear for B thing happening on the other end. And I'm just like, what is happening in this generation? And maybe it's coming out of the pandemic, maybe it's coming out of economic insecurity. Like, what is it that is happening that we're seeing these two? I mean, they could not be more opposite sides
So
of the
polarized.
spectrum. And so, where is this coming from?
I think it's a combination of people really wanting that connection and
Hmm.
being with their partner and being frustrated that they're not yet,
Hmm.
and either trying to force different pathways, or people are really deciding to go back to how the way that things were, right? Where
Hmm.
you have like a nuclear family, you
Yeah.
have certain ideals and roles that people play in family dynamics.
Hmm.
So I think it's a combination of both,
Hmm.
where people are wanting to do things on their own time, like me, or they are opting for that family dynamic and
Yeah.
that connection. And neither one of those are bad or good. I also feel like I can be in the middle too. Like, I don't think I would ever want to be a trad wife. I don't cook. That's number one.
Well, then you're already disqualified.
So that's that. You know, I don't, and I don't have to if I don't want to. I like getting up and going. I love traveling. However, I do think having your own family is really special,
Hmm.
but I don't want to be defined by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I want to be defined as my own woman, and I
Hmm.
believe I will be.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that really gets to the heart of this. And it's interesting because there has been a reaction to the trad wife trend where there have been women who are older coming out and saying, hey, I was this. And first of all, it doesn't look the way they're trying to make it look on social media,
There's a
you know?
lot of sacrifices that
Yes.
go into that type of lifestyle.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think one of the biggest ones that I've seen personally was just giving up your identity.
Yeah,
I think as
exactly.
women, it's so important to really have your own thing,
Hmm.
of course, have your own money, ladies, stock your coin, but outside of that, really have your own identity, really have your own purpose
Hmm.
outside of what you do for others in your family.
Yeah.
And I think, as I've seen in other previous generations, there's a lot of resentment that looms, that hangs with
Hmm.
you when
Hmm.
you don't fulfill your purpose, and you have a lot of built up resentment because if you've done all these things for others,
Yeah.
but somehow you didn't pour into yourself and you didn't receive that in return.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think, is why what you're saying about how you're living is so smart, because regardless of whether you do end up getting married and having children, you are carving out your own identity and your own life and doing you and finding out who you are. So even if you got married and had a kid tomorrow, it wouldn't erase who you are, because you're
Exactly.
using this single time in such a valuable way.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's supposed to add on to
Mm-hmm.
who you are,
Yeah.
not detract from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So on that, one of the things that I really want to do on this podcast is that there are so many women who are making the choice to be single, whether temporarily or forever or whatever, and are trying to, and haven't had examples for what that looks like, and are trying to figure out, how do I make this choice? And you are obviously making awesome choices and living a fantastic, fabulous, as you say, life as a single woman. What are the things that you would say to a woman who is trying to find the courage to really step out on her own, about how she can build her dream single life?
Yes. Well, first, it's important to have a plan, and you conceptualize that plan by your dreams and your biggest lofty goals and your visions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always done throughout my many careers and just personal life. I've always been a dreamer, but I made sure to put those dreams into action. So I
Yeah.
would say get with yourself. You need to sit alone, feel comfortable being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you can't live alone right now, sit with yourself, get to writing. Everyone says, oh, get to writing your journal, but really get to writing. Then the next step of that is visualize it. I've done vision boards since 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and most of those things have come true. And it's not just from manifesting, but also putting that plan into action.
Yep.
So the first thing, though, is definitely getting comfortable with being by yourself and alone, because you need to figure out who you are outside of outside noise, chatter, family
Yeah.
influences, friendship influences, even your job. For a long time, I felt like the only interesting thing about me was what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the case.
Yeah.
I'm a really interesting and nuanced and layered person outside of work, but I had to understand who I was first,
Yeah.
stripping out all the titles, everything. And you only kind of get to that point when you've taken some personal inventory and are brave
Mm-hmm.
enough to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's important. And going back to the beginning, I too, I love being alone. I'm the funniest, most interesting person I know. And, I love going to restaurants alone or bars alone or whatever. Like, it's so much fun. But I know so many people who don't feel comfortable with that. And definitely, I think that your point about, like, get comfortable, like, just start. Maybe don't take yourself out on a 3-course meal. Maybe take yourself out for a snack alone, right? Like, start
Mhm.
small and build up and learn to enjoy your own time. But you're right, like, that is so key, because then once you're comfortable being by yourself, which is, we're in so many ways in society raised not to be. But once you are, then the idea of living alone and traveling alone and living sort of a joyful life it's much easier. But you're right, it's such an important place to start.
Mhm. Mhm, definitely.
Yeah. So to close it out, who are your single inspirations?
Honestly, I just have one right now because
Okay.
she's so fabulous. She's three women in one, in my opinion, and that is Tracy
Oh my
Ellis
God, I knew you were going to say
Ross.
it because she's so great.
She's so great. And, aside from being a total fashion plate and icon and being raised by the diva
Right.
boss herself, Diana Ross, who I've been obsessed with since my childhood, Tracy has really kind of defined
Mm-hmm.
what it means to live on your own terms,
Mm-hmm.
truthfully. I've actually interviewed her several times for Essence,
Mm-hmm.
and she really is living that lifestyle that
Mm-hmm.
she's, portraying on social media, where someone needs to come into my life and make it better. They don't
Yeah.
need to. What's the point if you're not doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because the idea is that you have such a big and joyful life
Hmm.
that you really need to be selective on who can add to it because there might not be that much space
Yeah.
for others.
Exactly.
And I think Tracy does a really good job of showing us that and highlighting her daily life and jaunts and just her family life as well. And I
Yeah.
think she really has a great balance in doing both.
She does. Also, pattern hair care is so good.
It's so good.
I love it. I use it every day. They have these little self-warming hot oil packets that I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with.
Well, I love the blow
pattern.
dryer. We helped debut at Essence the blow
Yeah.
dryer.
Hmm.
So I love it. I love all the curly products in the blow dryer. And again, it's really about living joyfully, but
Hmm.
making that holistic, right? So
Yep.
every aspect of
Yep.
your life,
Yep.
you are trying to live in your truth
Hmm.
and be happy with
Yep.
with or without a partner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the perfect place to end it. Thank you, Dominique, so much. The conversation was awesome, but I also just love how you are just representing being fabulous and single and child free, both in your work and these great articles on Essence, on your Insta, just everywhere. So thank you for joining. You're so great.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and of course, leave a review. Until next week, here's hoping you find joy in your solo life.